Now that we have found the Torah, do we know what we're supposed to do with it? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 3 of Torah portion Eikev. Let's go to chapter number 8 and read verse 1. Guard to do every command which I command you today, that you might live and shall increase and go in and shall possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers. When you and I first found the Torah, maybe we should say when the Torah first found us. When we first got together, most of us quickly tried to figure out what we were supposed to do with it. We went to Jewish sites, we went to commentaries, we listened to other Hebrew experts, Hebrew roots experts that is, and tried to find our way and figure out exactly what it was and is that we are supposed to be doing with this Torah thing. We changed our diet. We got rid of Christmas and Easter. We found new holidays to celebrate and engaged in them with a fervor, especially when we go Sukkoting. We began to find things that were wrong with everyone else's observance. My congregation spent a long period of time trying to figure out whether Skittles were kosher or not. I had a lot of debate over that one. Very important items. So what is the Torah for? Is it a list of do's and don'ts? Is it a denominational creed of belief? Is it Yah's checklist for those who are naughty or nice? Exactly what is this Torah thing? And what is it for? Torah is our life. It is a description of the heart, the character, the personality of the Creator. It is a revelation of the Messiah in a societal structure mechanism. That is, that as we learn to live together with His compassion, with His observance of each other's needs, rising to fill or fit those needs, caring about others as much as we care about ourselves, living in a sense of community instead of the rugged American individual, as we make this transition, we find that Yeshua begins to be revealed to us in a way that our westernized mindsets and eyes could never see. Moshe gives to us 4 things here in this verse that the Torah accomplishes. Let's talk about these. Number 1, he says we keep or observe the Torah to live. It is our life, chayah, to have life, to continue in it, to be quickened, to be revived. Now that will go a long ways. I have to tell you, standing in the pulpit every Sunday morning and preaching my heart out to people who amened a lot, slapped me on the back when I finished very often and said, "That was good preaching, brother." But still had the same problems year after year after year. Never seemed to grow, never seemed to mature. We never seemed to get beyond a certain point. I began to cry out, "Father, we need revival." I built a revival praying team. We had an intercessory prayer room. We had intercessory prayer gifted leaders and teachers who prayed and cried out for revival on a consistent basis. One afternoon in that same church building, as I was praying, I heard the Father's voice speak to me. "Son, I'm going to give to you the revival that you've been praying for, but most of your congregation will be so offended by it, they will not accept it." I had no idea what he was getting ready to turn loose, but he turned loose the Torah. And he was right. While there was an initial excitement and wide-eyed fascination with its rediscovery, when we began to walk it out and not just preach about it, we encountered problems. You can study the Torah but not live. You can know the ins and outs, the ups and downs, all the specifics, the golden nuggets. You can have a bucket full of them and still not live the life that is ours in the Torah. That is, you have to find Messiah not only in the message of the Torah, but in the keeping, the observing, and the actual practicing of the Torah. Now, we could probably take about a 3-hour teaching there to talk about how to find Messiah in the practicing of the Torah. Maybe another time. Let's continue. We keep the Torah, or at least seek to observe it, in order to increase, rabbah, to become great, to become many, to multiply. Inherent in the commands of the Torah, in the book of Bereshit, early on, chapter number 1, matter of fact, there is this command, be fruitful and multiply. The Torah is never meant to be observed in isolation, all by yourself, never influencing anyone else, never having an impact on someone else. Now, I know that there are many that in the place where you live, you're isolated. You're the only one who may be believing as you do. You may have been well ostracized and cut off by those who acknowledge that you believe differently than they do. But yet you're still having an impact. You're still stirring the nest a bit. And who knows what fruit you may bear. But then again, there are those isolationists of the Torah who keep to themselves because no one else can keep the Torah like me and as perfectly as I do and the way that I prefer. That's not being fruitful. That's not increasing. That's not multiplying. Just a thought. So the Torah encourages you and I to engage, to be a community, to be a tribe, to be a nation, to be a peculiar people who are set apart the same way, with the same heart for the same Father. That means we need each other. Thirdly, we keep the Torah to go in. The word here is bo. To enter in, to attain to be brought in. In order to understand this, the context is to enter the land. We enter into the covenant that Yah gave to Abraham to receive the benefit of this covenant that Yah gave to Abraham. That is that he would have a large family, children, offspring, generations, but he would also have the land. Now, I have made a lot about the land, maybe to the chagrin of some. Why do you have to keep talking about the land of Israel? I've not been born in Israel. I don't live in Israel. I haven't even been to Israel. I don't understand what the fascination with Israel is. Israel is a fascinating culture and society of a nation. The people are incredible and spectacular in many, many ways. They're as human as anyone, but very engaging and very intriguing to talk to. The land, for the most part, is gorgeous, even in the Negev, where it's very, very much like going back into an old sci-fi movie where the world has been rendered useless. It's desert terrain beyond your imagination. But even that has its own beauty. But it's none of those things that is the heart here. It's that the kingdom is centered there. Messiah will reign there. It is that Jerusalem is there. And Jerusalem just stands on its own spectacular merit. The fourth thing is we keep the Torah to yarash, to possess, to seize, to dispossess, and inherit. That is what the kingdom is about. It's coming to this earth to dispossess the rulers and the authorities of the nations, principalities and powers of darkness, and establish the glory and the reign of Yeshua. Friend, remember, exile is punishment. It's punishment for disobedience. Now, thankfully, if we got to be in exile, Yah assigned us to America. But also remember that affluence and wealth can be a great stumbling block to receiving the blessing of the kingdom. So let's live, let's increase, let's go into the land and possess it. That's Yah's word for us. Talk to you tomorrow. Shalom.